Welcome to Real Talk. I'm your host, Tori Champa, and today we're going to be reviewing the movies Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs 2, Don Jon, and Rush. Now, just a reminder for anyone that's just joining us on our rating system, we rate whether or not you should pay the money and see the movie in theaters, whether you should wait and just rent it on demand or rent it from Redbox, or if you should just skip the movie altogether. So let's get started. Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs 2 is a sequel to, obviously, Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs by Sony Pictures Animation, and it takes us back with Flint, Sam, and all the characters from the first film, and show us what happens when they return to their home of Swallow Falls to see that it's been overrun by these food-like creatures called foodimals in the movie. So with Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs 2, what we're going to be reviewing is the script, the voice acting, and the animation itself. Now, the script I personally feel was very close to as good as the first one. Maybe not quite there, but definitely one of the best scripts of an animated film that I've seen. You definitely still had a lot of character development for the main character, Flint Lockwood, with his relationship with his dad, which was definitely nice to see since that was the main point of the first film, to see it carry over into this one. There definitely was a little bit of a plot hole with the character of Chester, who I'm not going to spoil the movie for anyone and say what part of the movie he played. But he definitely needed a little bit more background, which we didn't get, and I sort of left wishing I had known more. He's not a major character in it, so it's not really gonna affect your enjoyment of the film, but it would have been nice to have known at that point. The dialogue is great. It's full of fun puns with the foodimals. So you had tacodiles, you had chimpanzees, which are crocodiles made of tacos, and chimpanzees made of shrimp. So if you like puns, this is definitely a film I would suggest. They do a really good job having some really bad puns that you're going to laugh at how bad they are, but at the same time, some puns that you're like, I wouldn't have really thought of that one. So the second thing we're going to review is the voice acting. Just like the first one, the voice acting was excellent. The casting for the characters was excellent. We had Anna Faris as Sam Sparks, Bill Hader as Flint Lockwood, you had James Caan as Flint's dad, and you had Kristen Schaal as one of the minor characters. I definitely think the star of this film was Kristen Schaal. Now, a lot of people don't really know who she is. I do because I'm a big fan of hers, but she plays Louise in Bob's Burgers. She's in Gravity Falls, and she was also in a live-action role of 30 Rock as Hazel. She always usually plays a very light character, usually very humorous, but in this one it was a little bit more serious, so it was nice to see her in a different role, and I really think she played it well, so definitely I think she would end up being the star of this film. The last thing we're going to review with Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs 2 is the animation, which all I can really say is spectacular. I thought the first one was excellent. This one upped it even more. This is easily one of Sony Pictures' best animated films for animation, and the whole idea that they had with this island being inhabited by these foodimals was great, and they really showed it well through the animation. This is definitely a film you're going to want to see in theaters. You don't have to see it in 3D. I didn't. It may actually be worth it. I'm not sure. But you definitely want to see this in theaters and see it as soon as possible. It was a great movie, and as I said, probably Sony Pictures' best animated film, this and the prequel itself. So the second film we're going to be reviewing is Don Jon, which was directed, written by, and the main star was actually Joseph Gordon-Levitt. It's about his character's addiction, if you could say that, to porn and how it affects his relationships with the people around him. So the three things we're going to be reviewing today are the script, the acting and casting, and the cinematography and post-production. The writing was pretty bad. It had a few plot holes, and it just seemed that Joseph Gordon-Levitt had a bunch of ideas that he threw together into one movie. Sometimes what I like to do with films is to make sure they're not too dependent on where they're located. Think if the characters had been placed in a different state. This film took place in New Jersey, but if I had taken these characters and dropped them in Florida, this film would have made little to no sense. The accents that they gave the characters, I mean, I've never been to New Jersey, but if I was from there, I'd be a little insulted by the way they portrayed the characters. The dialogue was just very shaky and very poor. It's definitely not anything Oscar winning, but it's a little below average at best for a film that is supposed to be more on the dramatic side. It definitely had a couple points where it tried to be funny, but I found myself more laughing at the character than laughing at something the character said. So writing was definitely one of the big downfalls of this movie. So the second thing we're going to view is the casting and acting. First of all, I don't think Joseph Gordon-Levitt should have played this character. The character is supposed to be this suave guy that goes to clubs and is constantly sleeping around with what they refer to as tens. But he, to me at least, is not that attractive of a man that if I saw him in a club, that would be my first instinct, or anyone's really first instinct. He doesn't really play the character well enough when it comes to looks-wise. He's confident enough in the film, but it's just the fact of his looks that sort of put me off to believe that his character was like this. Scarlett Johansson was also in the film as his love interest for most of it. She did a good job playing this really snobby, high-end, high-maintenance character, but she was a little too snobby, so to the point where I didn't like her at all. And I think I was supposed to like her in the beginning, but even then, she was just too obnoxious. They had her chew gum in every scene to really show sort of what I assume was supposed to be that New Jersey attitude, but it was really just more annoying and distracting. The star of this film definitely is Julianne Moore. Now, I love Julianne Moore. I love The Kids Are All Right. She definitely stole and basically saved this film. It was a great casting idea to have her in it. She just overall really played the character well. The character development for her, starting off as more of a relaxed woman, going into more of her emotional arc, was great, and she did a really fantastic job. And actually, the only scenes I really liked that Joseph Gordon-Levitt even did were the ones where he was with Julianne Moore, because the relationship between the two really blossomed, and it really ended up coming out well and saving this film. The post-production was fabulous, and it's really weird that they spent so much time on it when there definitely were aspects I feel could have used more time. Everything from the songs they chose that really built up the tension and built up the attitude of the film, to the editing video-wise that was perfectly timed and perfectly in sync with the music. It was absolutely fabulous. If you could stay just to see this title sequence and then leave and not have to pay for anything, I would say to go see this movie. I was honestly, as someone who's in post-production, completely blown away by how well done it was. Overall, this is a movie you can skip. I personally didn't really like it, and I know it got a lot of great reviews, and a lot of people are going to argue with me. I was too distracted by how unlikable most of the characters were to really get into it. So this is definitely one that you can skip. The final film we're going to be reviewing today is Rush, starring Chris Hemsworth, Daniel Bruhl, and Olivia Wilde, and it's about the rivalry between F1 racers James Hunt and Niki Lauda. The three things we're going to be reviewing with this film are the script, the acting, and the cinematography. The script was nothing spectacular, nothing Oscar-winning, maybe Oscar-nominated at best. I definitely feel with true stories it's a little bit harder to write good dialogue, especially because you're a little constrained by the actual events. But this is definitely a little bit better than other films I've seen based on true stories. The scene that should definitely be noted, however, is the one between Hemsworth and Bruhl at the very end with their characters. The emotion was really good in it, and the dialogue was very well written. Definitely the best scene in the movie, in my opinion, and it was a great end to the film, and it really tied everything together between the rivalry between Lauda and Hunt. The next thing we're going to be reviewing is the acting, which A+ was stunning. Everything from the two main characters down to the smallest role was played very well. There's no one I would have replaced, and Hemsworth especially really surprised me. I'm not a big fan of him or his brother, but he played James Hunt, this rebellious character, very well, and played those scenes as well as the emotional ones excellently. He really blew me away with that. Olivia Wilde played his love interest in most of the film, and she also did a really good job. She played a smaller role than I thought she was, but she still did a solid job with that. The star of this film, however, is Daniel Bruhl. I had never heard of him, and I had never seen anything with him, but his portrayal of Niki Lauda was fabulous. He did a really good job, and I left really liking the character, really liking him to the point where I'm very interested in going back and seeing other films that he's been in because he did that good a job. The last thing I'm going to review is the cinematography, which, like the acting, was excellent. It was jarring, it was fast-paced, it really did a good job portraying the life of F1 racing. The only thing I suggest is you don't sit in the front row because you will get nauseated and you will leave with a headache. That's where I sat, and I enjoyed the cinematography, but it did make me a little bit sick. So I definitely suggest either sitting in the middle or sitting in the back for this film. This is a film you're going to want to see in theaters. You're going to want to get this whole experience with the big screen and everything that you're not going to be able to get by renting it and watching it at home. So this is one you're definitely not going to want to miss. So just to wrap up today's show, Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs 2 you should go see in theaters. Don John is one you can skip, and Rush is one you'll definitely want to see in theaters to get the full effect of the film. Next week we'll be reviewing Romeo and Juliet, Captain Phillips, and Machete Kills. This has been Real Talk, and thanks for watching.